In 1973, a Yale student walked into the university library and asked to see their copy of the Necronomicon. The librarian's response: "I'm sorry, but that book doesn't exist." The student insisted. He'd read about it. Scholars quoted from it. The librarian was right and wrong. Let us open the pages of the most dangerous book never written, a book that has driven readers mad, summoned horrors from beyond the stars, and somehow convinced thousands of people it's real. Picture this: you're browsing a dusty bookshop. Your fingers trail across worn spines until they stop on something wrong. No title, black leather that feels too warm to the touch. You pull it free, and inside you find text that makes your eyes water, symbols that seem to writhe on the page. You've just found the Necronomicon. Or have you? Because here's the thing. This book, perhaps the most infamous grimoire in all of horror literature, was completely invented by a writer from Providence, Rhode Island. Yet today, right now, there are people who swear they've seen it, held it, read from it. How does a fictional book become so real that libraries have to post disclaimers? How does imagination blur into belief? Let's find out. Our story doesn't begin in some medieval monastery or ancient tomb. It begins with a lonely child in the 1890s. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was 5 years old when he discovered the Arabian Nights. While other kids played cowboys and Indians, little Howard wrapped himself in bedsheets, called himself Abdul Alhazred, and pretended to be a mysterious Arab prince. Harmless childhood fantasy, right? Fast forward 30 years. That childhood game had taken root in Lovecraft's imagination, transforming into something far darker. In 1921, writing The Nameless City, Lovecraft needed an ominous quote, something that would chill readers to their core. He reached back to that childhood persona and wrote, "That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die." He attributed it to Abdul Alhazred, no longer a playful prince, but the mad Arab. 3 years later, in The Hound, Lovecraft finally named the book these words came from, the Necronomicon. He chose the name carefully, cobbling together Greek roots to mean something like the Book of Dead Names. But here's where Lovecraft did something brilliant and terrifying. He barely described it. According to Lovecraft's carefully constructed history, the Necronomicon began as Al-Azif, written in Damascus around 730 AD. Al-Azif. The name itself makes your skin crawl when you know what it means. It's the sound insects make in the desert at night. But to the Arabs of Lovecraft's mythology, this wasn't just buzzing. It was the whispering of jinn, of demons. Abdul Alhazred heard these whispers clearly. Lovecraft tells us Alhazred was born in Yemen in the dying days of the Umayyad Caliphate. But he was no ordinary scholar. While his contemporaries studied the Quran, Alhazred wandered. 10 years in the empty quarter, the Rub al-Khali, where the sand swallows entire caravans. He found the nameless city there, older than Babylon. He walked through Iraim, the city of pillars, which the Quran says God destroyed for its wickedness. In Memphis, he descended into tombs that predated the pharaohs, and everywhere he went, he found the same horrible truth. Humanity wasn't first. We weren't even close to first. The things Alhazred saw broke him. When he finally returned to Damascus, he was no longer quite human himself. Witnesses described him talking to empty air, drawing symbols that hurt to look at, screaming about the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young. For 2 years he wrote feverishly, producing the 900-page Al-Azif. Then, in 738 AD, in the middle of the Damascus marketplace, in broad daylight, with dozens watching, he was eaten by an invisible monster. The crowd saw him lifted into the air. They heard his screams. They watched him being torn apart by nothing, and then he was gone. Only bloodstains remained. His book, unfortunately, did not disappear with him. Here's what makes the Necronomicon terrifying as a concept. It's not just a book, it's an infection. For 2 centuries, Al-Azif festered in private collections across the Islamic world. Then, in 950 AD, a Byzantine scholar named Theodorus Philetas made a catastrophic decision. He translated it into Greek. Why catastrophic? Because Greek was the language of the learned. Suddenly, what had been confined to Arabic-speaking occultists could spread across Europe. Philetas gave it a new name, Necronomicon. The Greek Orthodox Church noticed. In 1050, Patriarch Michael ordered every copy burned, but you can't burn an idea, especially not an idea that promises power over death itself. By 1228, the infection had reached Western Europe. Olaus Wormius, and yes, that was his real name, Wormius, translated it into Latin. Now it could spread even further. The Catholic Church responded predictably. Pope Gregory IX banned it in 1232, placing it on the Index Librorum Prohibitorum alongside other heretical works. But here's the insidious part. Every time authorities tried to destroy the Necronomicon, they only confirmed its power. Why ban a book unless it contained real secrets? Why burn it unless it was dangerous? Secret printings followed. Germany, 15th century, black letter edition, only 5 copies made. Spain, 17th century, suppressed by the Inquisition, but not before several copies escaped to the New World. Italy, somewhere between 1500 and 1550, a Greek edition that supposedly drove 3 different printers mad before completion. And then there's the English translation. This is where fact and fiction blur dangerously. John Dee was real, court astronomer to Queen Elizabeth, advisor, mathematician, and, allegedly, magician. Lovecraft claims Dee translated the Necronomicon into English, but he never completed it. Or rather, he completed it, but then destroyed most of his work, keeping only fragments. Why? Lovecraft hints that Dee saw something in those pages that terrified even him, a man who claimed to speak with angels. These fragments, Lovecraft tells us, are the most dangerous of all, because they're incomplete. They contain enough knowledge to begin summoning rituals, but not enough to control what answers. It's like having half a phone number to hell. You might get through, but you won't reach who you're trying to call. In The Dunwich Horror, Wilbur Whately owns one of these incomplete Dee copies. He needs the complete Latin version from Miskatonic University to finish his father's work. His father, who isn't human. His father, who waits beyond the walls of reality. The genius of this detail? It explains why no 2 accounts of the Necronomicon match perfectly. They're all working from different fragments, different translations, different levels of completeness. The book itself becomes a puzzle with missing pieces, and maybe that's for the best. Now, let's talk about where Lovecraft claimed you could actually find the Necronomicon, because he didn't just say it's out there somewhere, he gave addresses. The British Museum in London, they have the Latin edition, supposedly catalogued under Case 817. The Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris keeps theirs in a locked basement vault, accessible only with special permission. Harvard's Widener Library owns a 17th century Spanish printing, but good luck getting access. It's been misplaced since 1969. The University of Buenos Aires has a copy that survived the burning of the National Library in 1955. How convenient that it's in South America, far enough away that you can't easily check. And then there's Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts. Fictional university, fictional town. But Lovecraft describes them so precisely that people still look for Arkham on maps. Miskatonic's copy is the most complete, the most dangerous. It's chained to its reading desk. The pages are made from human skin. The ink, well, best not to ask about the ink. But here's what's truly unsettling. Real libraries have had to deal with this. The Yale University Library, Brown University, Harvard. They all regularly receive requests to see their copies of the Necronomicon. Some libraries have even created fake catalog entries as jokes, then had to remove them when too many people took them seriously. The University of Tromsø in Norway actually has a Necronomicon in their catalog, but it's just a bound collection of Lovecraft stories. They added it because they were tired of saying no to requests. Lovecraft was clever. He never gave us the full text of the Necronomicon. Instead, he scattered fragments throughout his stories, like breadcrumbs, leading into a dark forest. We know it contains the history of the Old Ones, beings that ruled Earth before humanity evolved. Cthulhu, sleeping in Arli, Yog-Sothoth, the key and the gate, Azathoth, the blind idiot god at the center of existence. We know it contains summoning rituals, the Vurish sign, the Elder sign, the ceremony of the black goat. But Lovecraft never gives complete instructions. Always there's something missing, a word, a gesture, a pronunciation guide for names that human throats were never meant to speak. There's a chapter on the Shoggoth, the protoplasmic servants of the Elder Things, another on the Migo, the fungi from Yuggoth, maps of cities that don't exist in three-dimensional space, star charts for constellations, visible only from other worlds. But the most terrifying content, the prophecies. The Necronomicon doesn't just describe what was, it describes what will be, when the stars are right, when the seals weaken, when mankind's time ends and the Old Ones reclaim their world. In his house at Arli, dead Cthulhu waits, dreaming, waits, present tense, not waited, not will wait, waits. Here's where the Necronomicon transcends normal fiction. Lovecraft let others play with it. His fellow writers added their own forbidden books. Robert Bloch created De Vermis Mysteriis, Mysteries of the Worm. Clark Ashton Smith contributed the Book of Eibon. Robert E. Howard added Unaussprechlichen Kulten, Unspeakable Cults. They referenced each other's books, quoted from them, built a shared bibliography of tomes that never existed. The Necronomicon became the cornerstone of this fictional library, and something strange happened. The more writers referenced it, the more real it became. August Derleth published what he claimed were stories posthumously collaborated with Lovecraft, adding new Necronomicon quotes. Lynn Carter wrote The Necronomicon, the D translation, in the 1970s. The Simon Necronomicon appeared in 1977, marketed as a genuine grimoire. Each iteration added details, symbols, rituals, languages. The book grew like a living thing, fed by imagination and belief. Then came Sam Raimi's Evil Dead in 1981, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, bound in human flesh, inked in blood, with a screaming face on its cover. Suddenly, Millions of people who'd never read Lovecraft could picture the Necronomicon perfectly. It spread through popular culture like wildfire. The Simpsons, Discworld, video games, comic books. Each reference made it more solid, more accepted, more real. And then the internet happened. Now you can download translations of the Necronomicon, buy handcrafted replicas on Etsy, join forums discussing the proper pronunciation of Finglui, Mglwynaf, and whatnot. Occult shops sell Necronomicons, multiple versions. Some claim to be channeled from Alhazred's spirit. Others say they're reconstructed from hidden manuscripts. A few insist they're the real thing, smuggled out of private collections. They're all fake. Obviously, necessarily. So we return to our central mystery. How did a fictional book become so real that people, at least some, believe in it? Maybe it's because Lovecraft tapped into something primal, the fear of forbidden knowledge. Every culture has stories of books too dangerous to read. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Lost Book of Enki, the 6th and 7th books of Moses. Maybe it's because Lovecraft wrote with such conviction. He created a detailed history, a believable provenance, scholarly citations. He made the Necronomicon feel more real than many actual historical texts. Or maybe it's because somewhere in some form it does exist. Not as Lovecraft described it, that would be impossible, but as an archetype, a template, a space in human consciousness shaped exactly like a book of forbidden knowledge. And maybe, when enough people believe in something, when enough minds focus on the same impossible idea, maybe that's enough. The Necronomicon began as a prop in horror stories. A century later, it has its own Wikipedia page, its own Library of Congress subject heading, its own history more detailed than many real books. Lovecraft died in 1937, insisting to the end that he had invented the Necronomicon. But here's the thing about creating myths. Once you release them, they're not yours anymore. They belong to the collective unconscious. They grow and mutate. Right now, someone, somewhere, is searching for a real copy of the Necronomicon. They're checking estate sales, used bookstores and university archives. They're certain that if they look hard enough, they'll find it. And who knows, maybe they will. Maybe they'll find exactly what they're looking for. The question is, will they survive reading it? And remember, not all books want to be read. Some books read you.